Okay, let me share with you 3 Cloudflare rules, firewall rules, that will filter a lot of the crap hitting a WordPress site and also help speed it up somewhat because it will reduce the load on the hosting. So let me talk through these 3 here. So the first one is this, I'll do them out of order. Block XML-RPC. So I'll just click into each of these as we go through them. So XML-RPC.php. So this is an old API interface, API file that is used. It's called a remote publishing interface or remote publishing connector, something like that. That's what RPC comes from. Anyway, it's a vector for attacks. So quite commonly, attackers and kind of dodgy traffic will hit the XML-RPC file in an attempt to get into the site or exploit vulnerabilities. So traffic hitting this, it can be quite brutal. So you can flood the XML-RPC file with a lot of traffic and it will knock over the hosting essentially. So it'll chew up a lot of CPU cycles. So I don't think out of the thousands of sites we've worked on, I don't think we've even had one that uses the XML-RPC interface. So simple way to get rid of this problem, and a lot of like security plugins and things will disable this. But a simple way to do it in Cloudflare is just to block it with this rule here. So URI path, so any of these like URL path strings will work, but URL contains XML-RPC.php and then just the actions block. It's pretty straightforward. And you can see here that it's blocked in the last 24 hours. You can see here it's blocked 5 attempts to get in here. So you'll see there's no reason why these sites, these IP addresses should be hitting that. But yeah, you can see it's blocked 5 of them, and that's actually quite low. Typically we'd see more, but also what we find with these rules is once we put them in place, the site stops. After they've been in place for a week or two, the site stops getting a lot of that garbage traffic. It just goes away. So I don't know if there's lists that are shared around of websites with exploits or whatever, but once these rules are in place, you'll see the noise die down after they've been in there for a couple of weeks. Okay, the next one, block SEO crawlers. So there's 3 SEO crawlers that we block, or 4 here, but 3 typically: SEMrush or SEMrush, Ahrefs, and Open Site Explorer, which is SEO Moz or Moz. This one is a 3rd one that was hammering the site, a 4th one that was hammering the site, so we added it in here as well, but normally we wouldn't do that. So these 3 here, they're common SEO tools, and one big issue, particularly in WooCommerce sites, is they're very aggressive with adding and removing things to the cart. So they follow the cart and wishlist links, so they'll add and remove things to the cart and wishlist in WooCommerce very, very rapidly, so several times per second. So that, again, particularly on lower end hosting or shared hosting, that absolutely chews up CPU cycles. That's like a user sitting there with multiple people checking out at once or working on the cart at once. So a simple way to fix this problem is to block them as well. The other benefit here is these tools actually divulge information about the SEO on the website and the structure of the website. So by blocking them, it kind of blocks some of the data that they give away to potentially competitors as well. So you can see here, this is pretty simple, similar sort of thing. User agent contains and SEMrush. It's not the full user agent string, it just says that in the string you see here. So and we just use OR rules. So user agent contains SEMrush, or user agent contains Ahrefs, or OpenSite, or .bot. And then we just block them. So again, you can see they're actually super aggressive. You can see here 32 times in the last 24 hours. Again, they kind of go away once they've been blocked a bit, but you know, that's still a fair amount of traffic, and there's no benefit to having that traffic on the website if you're not using those tools. Now, just a note that will block the SEO audit function of those tools. So if you are paying for those tools, or the client's paying for those tools, the SEO auditing on the client's own website won't actually work anymore. So just keep that in mind. And then the last one is having a capture message on the WP login page. So again, this gets hammered by brute force password attempts. You can block it with WordFence and other security tools, but blocking it to Cloudflare means that it's blocked before it hits the website, before it starts even chewing CPU cycles. So this is also very useful. In a WooCommerce environment, it might block or it might capture real users, so that might be a problem when they're logging into the My Account page. So maybe use that liberally if you have a WooCommerce site you're working on. But pretty simple here, similar sort of thing. URL contains wp-login.php, and this is for our site. So there's not really any brute force attempts coming from Australia. There might be a handful, but not particularly. So if the country is not in Australia, then show a CAPTCHA message for that page. So what that does, it shows just the default Cloudflare CAPTCHA before someone's allowed to access the login page for WordPress. And that, again, filters so much crap. And again, because you start blocking the crap, it tends to go away. So you can see here, in the last 24 hours, this is actually really low. When we first put this on a site, we can see this sometimes be somewhere between 1,000 to 10,000 per day, which is, if you think that's 10,000 people trying to log into a site a day and just hammering that login, it's going to chew up, again, so many CPU cycles, work PHP really hard. So you can see here, we only had 12 attempts if we click into that. And you can see people from all over the place, Vietnam, Netherlands, France, US, and Turkey. And it just keeps going, but none of those are genuine. And you can see that there if we go back here. So CSR means that the CAPTCHA was solved. I think that's CAPTCHA solve rate. So 0% of those people were genuine or real users, but it's not that many, but it was definitely in the hundreds and thousands when we initially did it. So really simple. You can do this on the free Cloudflare plan. I think this is on the paid Cloudflare plan because we have 20 rules here, but I think on the free plan you can add 5. So more than enough scope there to add it on the free plan, and it makes a huge difference, especially on WooCommerce sites. So it'll chop down the CPU usage substantially. The most powerful one is probably on WooCommerce is probably this SEO crawler one, but on general sites, the login is probably the one that's getting hammered the most. Pretty straightforward. They take effect straight away. If you want to see if they're working, add the rule and then come back, a day later and just check that. You should see some numbers in there. That's it. Very straightforward.